On April 1st, 2026, Artemis 2 launched 4 brave astronauts into space on a nearly 10-day voyage around the moon, marking the first manned flight of NASA's Orion spacecraft. The crew on board the Orion capsule, nicknamed Integrity, have contributed a great amount to our space program, as well as the ESA and CSA, just from this trip alone, setting a foundation for future manned deep space missions. Our first astronaut, Commander Reed Wiseman. Reed was selected for the Astronaut Corps on June 29, 2009. He was one of 9 in a pool of 3,500 applicants. Chosen for his skill as a test pilot, he was a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy. He also flew on Expedition 40, 41, and the Soyuz TMA-13M. Our next astronaut is pilot Victor Glover. Victor was selected on June 17, 2013. He was actually 2 of 8 from a pool of 6,300 applicants. The 8 astronauts selected for Group 21 had led them to earning the name 8 Balls. He was selected as a pilot for his test pilot experience, as well as his Air Force experience. He earned his Naval Aviator Wings in 2001. He has earned the achievement of first person of color to the moon. Victor also flew on SpaceX Crew 1, Expedition 64, and 65 aboard the International Space Station. Next, we have mission specialist Christina Cook. Christina was selected on June 17, 2013, alongside pilot Victor Glover. She graduated from the Academy program at Goddard Space Flight Center in 2001, going on to work as an electrical engineer in the Laboratory for High Energy Astrophysics from 2002 to 2004, developing space science equipment and working in remote scientific field engineering. She flew on expeditions 59 through 61, Soyuz MS-12 and MS-13, and became the first woman to the moon during Artemis 2. She has spent the longest time in space out of all of the Integrity crew members. Finally, we have mission specialist Jeremy Hansen. Jeremy was selected by the Canadian Space Agency in the 2009 astronaut recruitment program. Artemis 2 was his first ever space mission, becoming the first non-American citizen to the moon.
Preparation had already begun hours before. Integrity spent hours carefully suiting up for the mission in a specially designed suit called the Orion Crew Survival System. The process takes so long because if the Orion capsule were to depressurize in deep space for any reason, these suits are their only way of survival. They do intensive checks on the entire suit system before the mission to make fully sure that it is operational before committing to the launch. Fitted with food, water, air, and waste management systems, one suit can keep its astronaut alive for 6 days. They are also used as their launch and re-entry suits.
And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis 2 now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston, now controlling the flight of Integrity on the Artemis 2 mission. We see throttle down. Confirm separation. Main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
Copy all, Stan.
The Integrity crew had performed the translunar injection, propelling the Orion capsule out of Earth's orbit on a course to the moon. Before this action was performed, Capcom, the capsule communicator, had asked every crew member if they were sure of it, because once the injection was performed, they could not return to Earth until they went around the moon. After this maneuver was performed, they conducted health checks. Integrity had cancelled the first outbound trajectory burn, having full confidence in their trajectory around the moon. The rest of their day was scheduled with exercise, practicing medical response procedures, and testing the spacecraft's emergency communication system in deep space. Pilot Victor Glover took manual control of the spacecraft, testing the flight systems to gather more data on Orion's handling across different maneuvers. Following the procedure, they began to prepare to observe the lunar surface. Day 5 began with an outbound correction burn, lasting approximately 17 seconds to adjust their trajectory around the moon. Afterwards, they tested the OCSS in 2 different ways: rushed and slow suit up. They tested pressurization, leak checks, seat entry, mobility, and ability to eat and drink. As the day ended, they entered the orbital influence of the moon, knowing that when they woke up the next day, they would see the moon close up for the first time in a little over 50 years. Day 6 is what all this time and planning had led to. Following the beginning of a communications blackout, Integrity had crossed to the dark side of the moon. And shortly after, our 3 NASA astronauts and CSA astronaut became the farthest people away from the Earth, breaking the previous deep space record of 248,655 miles away since 1970. Quoting CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen, "As we surpassed the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth, we do so in honoring the extraordinary efforts and feats of our predecessors in human space exploration. We will continue our journey even further into space before Mother Earth succeeds in pulling us back into everything that we hold dear. But most importantly, we choose this moment to challenge this generation and the next to make sure this record is not long-lived." An honorable mention on this day, pilot Victor Glover also became the first human to perform the 6-7 meme in deep space.
7, 6, 5.
On flight day 7, Integrity had a call with Expedition 74, speaking with NASA astronauts Jessica Meir, Jack Hathaway, Chris Williams, and ESA astronaut Sophie Adenau aboard the ISS. Integrity then spoke about their observations of the moon and uploaded photos. Afterwards, our astronauts had taken a well-deserved break from all their hard work. Following their break, they began 3 trajectory correction burns to set their return to Earth, with Cook and Hansen overseeing the procedures and monitoring the Orion spacecraft systems during the trajectory burns. Integrity and flight control teams began to prepare the cabin and study entrance procedures ahead of splashdown. They began to stow away equipment and other loose items, installing the re-entry seats to ensure all items are secured. The crew opted to not do the previously planned shielding deployment demonstration to prepare the Orion spacecraft for re-entry. After their midday meal, pilot Victor Glover took manual control of Orion at around 10:55 p.m. for another demonstration. Using Orion's field of view window, Integrity guided the craft to a tail-to-sun altitude, testing more on handling, guidance, navigation, and control systems. This maneuver also manages the thermal conditions and power generation. At 10:53 p.m., the spacecraft began a 9-second correction burn, producing an acceleration and velocity of 5.3 feet per second and pushing the Artemis II crew towards Earth. At this point, they are now more than halfway towards home. About 2 hours before the burn, there was an unexpected loss of signal during a data rate change, affecting the transmission of communications and telemetry from spacecraft to ground. When communications were re-established, flight controllers resumed preparations for the 10:53 p.m. burn. Finally, on mission day 10, Integrity splashed down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego. At their farthest point, the crew traveled 252,756 miles from Earth, setting a record for the furthest distance humans have traveled in space and observing the lunar surface like no human has ever done before. With the progression of the Artemis program, NASA will send astronauts on increasingly complex missions to explore the moon for scientific discovery, economic benefit, and establishing a permanent lunar base so humanity can prepare for future human missions to Mars. Hope for humanity is at its greatest under Artemis.